Clefina, good for me to start. All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Horatio. I am the Kingdom Hospitler, and this is our Kingdom Communications Sync. Clefina, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I am Colfina and Kira Otter's daughter, the Kingdom Web Minister of Ansteorra.
Beatrix?
I'm Beatrix Fontaine. I'm the Kingdom Chronicler of Ansteorra.
And Koya.
I am Koya Karasova. I am the Kingdom Social Media Officer.
Ooh, all right. So, we started meeting first web, social media, and Hospitler, and then we realized we were missing a key part of like the communications family and pulled in Beatrix. Um, but so really what we're kind of looking to go through, and this will be like the next couple slides, but it's like, why this? Why did we start doing this? Because it's been really helpful for us. And so we did uh, this at Summer Roundtable and want to continue to advocate for groups to mirror this um, as we go forward. I see a note. Can anyone not see my screen before I continue? I think this note's old, but I just want to make sure. Excellent. Okay. So, which officers and why? We introduce ourselves. And so, really, the why is so that we're all on the same page to make sure that, um, that we can improve each other's products by keeping everything up to date, sharing ideas, celebrating successes, and problem solving any of our issues. Uh, and fellow, I'm just gonna be the one to run through, but fellow presenters, stop me at any time if you have anything you want to add in.
No, I'm good. I'm good for now. We'll get into it as we get
All
going.
right. So, what does it look like for us? So, we've been meeting monthly, talk about our successes, our failures, things we want to do, things we're trying to get kicked off, opportunities for improvement, and feedback from our various centers of information within the kingdom on what's working and what's not. So, what could this look like for you? Same thing, monthly sync. So, we have the business meetings. Can be great for this. It takes a little bit of reformatting because I know, at least for the groups that I've been in, business meeting can be very, here's my report, that's it. Um, but if it's more of a working meeting, can be a great opportunity for that. Um, we have a monthly goose meeting, but elected to have a separate communication sync just because there was so much else that needed to get covered. Um, and it gave us more freedom to kind of just free stream of consciousness work with ideas. And we have, and then like we also have an ongoing chat that we can just pop into asynchronously. All right, so what have we gotten out of it? Why is it valuable? Um, a lot of it, especially from my side, is making sure that information that newcomers need is getting everywhere. Uh, a lot of times, if we're not careful, websites, social media, um, the points of contact in uh, the newsletters can get stale. And the worse that gets, the less and less appealing our group looks, and the less and less, the more and more difficult it becomes for newcomers to easily find us. Um, so, really important from the hospitaler side. I also know that it's helped a lot in terms of like reducing duplication of effort. There's been some really great opportunities across, I think, all three of our offices with the web ministry to be able to be like, oh, there's an easier way to do that, uh, and get that set up, and it's made a huge difference. Um, and I think that kind of goes between all of us. Um, any of my uh, yep.
So I'll just jump in really quickly. So, for example, talking about duplication of effort. So both one of the common things that is shared or required in the newsletter that's also provided in the website is a list of officers and their contact information. And it's really so both your chronicler and your web minister need to get that information or information about like regular practices. And so rather than having it be like, oh, make sure you tell these two, you know, if you have to send two separate emails, like right now we're trying to set up for the kingdom level, having the officer directory that I keep for the Black Star will also share information with our kingdom web minister. And so that information should stay up to date in both locations rather than having you, if you take a new office, you have to tell multiple people, hey, by the way, I just took over this office, change my information.
Yeah, I'm incredibly excited about that because it'll also help us streamline the like. Okay, so you took an office. Who do you need to tell? Like we can create one path for that, which I'm super excited about.
That also that kind of communication also helps out with the chronicler and I, because instead of me having down the event stewards, I can just message Beatrix and be like, can you send me the events ad? And she'll shoot it over and I have all of the information I need to make like a Facebook event page. And it's so much easier because it has all of the information I need. And it's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. So the next sort of section is just some general good practice stuff that we wanted to talk through, and how we can make things better, and then we'll kind of have a what does this mean for each office, and then open up for questions. So, important thing, gotta update the information. Out of date sites, risk, newcomers and members can't get info about activities and get involved. I know that in the last 5 years or so, especially as we've been making the transition to WordPress, there's some sites that went from looking like they hadn't been touched since 1985 to looking like a modern site, and it makes a huge difference. And so just the more and more we can update that information, the better and better off we'll be. Kira, do you want to talk, or Kofi, do you want to talk about Google Calendar?
Yes, I do. I absolutely love talking about this. And just information up front. Google Calendar, integrating across multiple platforms, pushing announcements. I'm planning probably in the next month or so to throw a virtual meeting on the Kingdom Calendar to get into like the details on this. So I'm going to keep this pretty high level, but look forward to, if you want to dig into this and like understand how it works, I'm gonna facilitate that. But at least on the website, and I think this is also true for the Chronicler, it's also true for social media, keeping like Facebook events updated. Like it's hard to get the activity details that you need and keep them up to date and get them updated. And there's a lot of ways that, through Facebook or through Discord or through the website, you can create these little bottlenecks. And it's like, we wish we have to rely on this one person being available on time in order to get things updated. And if they're not available or they don't see the message, you're out of luck. And so I have been advocating really heavily for the adoption and use of Google Calendar as a way to manage events, because not only can you attach it to like your web minister or your Seneschal's account, but you can use Google Calendar and add like your guild leaders, your marshals, your Seneschal as editors for individual activities. So the responsible parties can make changes to events when it needs to, and then integrating with the websites, integrating with a tool that I like for Discord called ChronicleBot, and then some other automatic cross-posting things can make it so that those Google Calendar changes propagate immediately with an asterisk, 5-10 minutes, to all of, kind of our secondary platforms. And I've been pushing really hard for that, and being able to kind of collaborate with our Chronicler, social media, Hospitaller on like how do we do this has been super helpful. But making it easier to make the updates also makes it easier to basically drive the content to the web ministers, to social media, to the chroniclers, so that we don't run into the same problem of all three of us being like, please tell me the event details, because it's exhausting and it's tiring, and it's like, that's not a fun thing to do. So I'm a huge, I can talk for a very long time about like use the tools to make it easy to update stuff. So if any of that sounds interesting, keep your eyes open for a follow-up meeting.
Yeah, and that content also is a huge part of, like, that's a very broad term when we're talking about driving content to the web ministers and social media officers, chronicler, especially, hospitalers. We have a lot of fingers and a lot of pies. And so there's a lot of opportunities to highlight a member of the populace and work with your social media officer, or encourage people to post to their local Instagram so that the social media officer can repost it. Like, there's a lot of options that can help really facilitate your group's information. Koya, I see you about to jump on.
Yes. So one of the things that you can also do with as a hospitaler is see if your social media officer will add you to your outward facing Facebook page, because we get a lot of newcomers messaging like the Kingdom page saying, hey, I'm part of this group, or like I'm in this area, where can I meet people? And your local groups will eventually get those messages as well. And so having your hospitaler in that, able to see those posts and interact with them directly, makes it less of an middleman for your your SMO than because you're not having to go, oh, well, go talk to this person. That person that you're wanting to introduce them to is already there and is able to talk.
Yeah, and that can be across the the office of the hospitaler. So like, if the hospitaler also has a deputy that is specifically focused on social media, then that's how you can kind of like break it down. Claire?
Oh, yeah.
How do you get an easy searchability for SPA terms versus like normal people terms? Like, if somebody is searching for my Austin group, they're never going to be able to type out Bring Galot. I can barely type it out. How do I get new people to be able to find it?
That's a really good question.
Even if we have a weird word.
Koya, do you want to jump in first, or should I?
Can you repeat the question? It was my headset's a
When
little
how do
glitching.
we
I have a weird name from the group that I'm in, and it's hard for new people to find us. Is there a way that I can facilitate making that easier?
So one of the things that you can do, I believe, if you're talking about like with your name, is use like hashtag Houston, do some extra hashtags, so that way, do hashtag LARP, hashtag medieval, hashtag Ren Fair, like get those kinds of things incorporated, so that way you're spreading out further, so people can be like, oh, that's the Houston area. Like, these people are in Houston. And then when you're talking about whatever you're posting about, definitely include the words of your area, your local group. Bring Galad, the group of Houston, is doing this activity today, or our populace meeting, our get together is in Houston. Come visit. That kind of stuff. When you're pushing outwards, you want to make sure that you translate what your SEA language is into mundane terms, for sure.
Can they do that on the description of the page? Does that help?
Yes. So should be one of the requirements in there, is that you put in where you're located in. Like, it should be Ansteorra is like the Oklahoma, Texas area. And if I don't have that on there, I'll fix that. But like, everyone should do that for their groups. Get as much like we're Norman, so Namron, like background. Just you gotta you gotta advertise you gotta think of it like you're advertising your group to potential buyers.
Yeah, and there's similarly for your local websites.
Mhm.
And this is something I'm gonna be I'm working on actually like codifying into Kingdom policy, is like you can have your SCA, like the website name can be Bringwalad, which is hard to spell and folks don't know what that means, but websites also you can fill in like a tagline. And so for example, what I usually set everybody up with as soon as I can is a tagline that says we are to use Bringwalad as an example, the Austin, Texas chapter of the Society for Creative Anachronism that focuses on inclusive medieval reenactment. Like you put that in there on website taglines, and then for social like Facebook events, YouTube videos, if you're doing Instagram posts, is basically search engines look for the first 10 or 15 words. And so you want to include in there words that people are going to search for. Um, and I don't want to dive into the specifics of all the places you can customize that on the website, but there is more that I can talk about that for websites. And a lot of the principles apply across websites, social media, Discord, all that kind of stuff. So there are definitely ways that you can improve the search engine optimization for all of our platforms.
Yeah. So have a couple examples of just like good practice in terms of how to set up your website. In particular, just trying to make sure that Clary, kind of to your point, the jargon gets lessened as much as possible, so that it is as easy as possible for newcomers to interact with our landing pages. And so we kind of have this one, which is talking about our homepage, and then you might also have a specific landing point that you are using from a demo. And so working with your web minister, where it's like, here's going to be the things we absolutely want to push these people towards when they are trying to scan this QR code or whatever we're doing from this demo.
So there's a question about having a jargon page, and would be a really cool thing. I think Koke's saying that there is a glossary. Yeah. There's a link that Kofina just posted, but also like if you I have done posts in the past where it's like, did you know what this means? And you explain it too. So like you can pull that information if you're a social media officer looking for content, pull that information and make a post about it and be like, here's the information on how to talk about what we mean when we say these things in the SCA. Learn our language.
Yes, Avon.
Real quick on that note, I believe it's the Mid Realm has done basically a Word Wednesdays of sorts where they go in and highlight jargon, especially for their incoming newcomers. So that's something that may be of interest to some of you.
Nice.
I like that.
All right. So
you just have to be careful when you but just be careful when you are sharing information that's shared from another kingdom, that's to indicate that you anything that might be different culturally from Ansteorra versus like Glenaben or not Glenaben, Glenaben or the Middle Kingdom or anything like that.
Mm.
For the question from Clary in the chat, is it better to direct new people to the Kingdom landing page or to the local group page? I'm going to say this probably depends on where you found those new people. Is it at the Sherwood Forest Fair demo where you're getting people from all around the state or the country? Probably send them to the Kingdom page so that they can do the find your group, look at events, kind of much more high level. If it's this person has wandered into my local practice, send them to your local page, send them to your calendar. And that's the kind of thing where this kind of collaboration of having, your web minister, your social media officer, your hospitaler who can say as a group, what do we want new people to see first? Let's adjust our website and our social platforms so that that's what they find first.
would you recommend them having a QR to the Find Your Local group at the Big Demo stuff? Like in
For Ansteorra for the Kingdom site, I created a landing page. Let me type it in chat. Ansteorra.org/welcome, which is a page with like 6 buttons on it. There's a snapshot on the slides that you can see. I've updated recently, so it's got, I feel like, better colors, but I may change it again. That's like, here are the top things you might want to do. We're not going to inundate you with words, no jargon. It's like globe, question, calendar, Facebook, Linktree, Discord. Done. So in general for the kingdom, this is what I'm pushing right now. The Ansteorra.org/groups is also good, but it's included on this welcome dashboard, so you can kind of get two for one on that.
And I see Bjorna has a hand up.
Yes. Hi. I'm Bjorna. I'm the Ravensford Hospitaler. I got in a little bit late. But touching on that, one of the things our group was looking at doing was having some, for like, we do fighter practice at Candy Cane Park in Conroe. So one thing we were considering doing was getting some signs made with QR codes that can take you either to the Barony website, Facebook page, or straight to Ansteorra or just the SCA organizational page, because everyone has their phones in their pockets. It's just a quick scan it and you're good to go.
Thing to watch out for is if you're making signs that aren't like paper signs or something that you want to be more permanent, that when y'all are making the QR codes, it is one that will last, because some of them are time restricted.
Right.
So just keep that in mind. And there is a project in the works. I'm working with somebody in Hellsgate to get each group the same kind of sign like this. That would take them to Ansteorra.org/welcome. So everyone would have that like in their inventory.
Mm-hmm.
Bring Blood Special got to have it first because that was the prototype.
It's because of Sherwood.
It is
massive undertaking. Question in the chat is, do we have something that's not necessarily for prospective new members, but like a dashboard for other organizations or venues? We do not currently have anything on the web or documentation that I know of, but I love that question.
This feels like a...
Yeah.
Actually, no, this feels like an all 4 of us question.
Yeah. This is a great question.
We have a new project. Yay!
Yeah, society's website can get a little overwhelming because it is dedicated for like the known world, not just for someone. So definitely, I encourage to send people to Ansteorra, just because it's definitely more localized, and like unless you're told, oh, I'm just visiting, Oklahoma, Texas from, Minnesota or somewhere, like 99% of the time you're going to be talking to someone who's going to be in Ansteorra. So it's just better to go ahead and like cut down half of the research by giving them Ansteorra.
Yeah.
All right. So for the online presence, this is just...
Sorry, Orazio, I want to jump in, and actually, now that I'm looking at this, I feel like we should rename this slide Creating an Active Presence, because the things that are on this apply to our newsletters, our websites, and our socials. And I didn't think of it until I looked at it right now.
It's always been called Creating an Active Presence.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know why I thought it said online. It says active.
Yep. So yeah, it's been up for a while. You've probably already read it. One of the things that I'd like to like really call out, and something that we are still toying with and maybe going to start is, for instance, the greater officers send in reports to the Black Star, and there's a lot of really great information that goes in there, and sometimes people have a hard time making it to the Black Star. And so looking at like taking each of those snippets from the officers and those becoming Kingdom blog posts, so that, kind of throughout the month, each of the offices is being like, hey, here's what's new, so that our website looks fluid and active, and so that information is getting out there to everybody. So that's an example.
Yeah, and related to that, before you switch slides, creating content is an active challenge for all of our offices. Is we want our websites to have stuff that's up to date and active. And websites, it's some more static content, calendar activities, that's probably the most common. Social medias, it's like you want to see what's up and coming, that kind of stuff. Our newsletters, you have so much opportunity for long form content, stories, histories, all that kind of stuff. And this first bullet, which I'm reading it and I'm like, we can expand this to be, but like the more things that you are contributing to that, the more things look active. And I think that's especially true for our newsletters, because it's like if you're getting content, you can use that. I know the Kingdom newsletter, Beatrix, there are some limitations on length that you have to factor in there, but especially for our local groups, like as far as I know, there's not a character limit.
Not at all.
And so, if it's like, here is our social post that we made this month, let's put them in the newsletter. Like you can just reuse this stuff, and if our offices are collaborating, it makes it way easier.
Yeah.
I think Beatrix had a note.
Sorry, in one of my earlier classes today, one of my local chroniclers was saying, hey, the people in our group, I was polling around, what were people interested in? They say they would love to read more articles in our newsletter. And we said, great. So who's going to submit them? So it becomes having that content both for all of our areas, social media, web ministry, newsletters. That has to be a group effort of your branch, of your chapter. It cannot be the responsibility of the web minister, of the social media officer, of the chronicler to have to develop that content independently. And so really, this becomes a collaborative effort, not just between, it's not an effort just of the individual, but it can be the effort of Hospitaller wants to convey information. The community needs to say like, okay, what sorts of things do I want to share? And so that can be across all of our different communication platforms. So we cannot produce all the content. We need to have support, and we need to encourage other people to say like, hey, contribute this thing. Can we use that picture, right? All those kinds of ideas.
Yeah, and I can't second that enough. And like Hospitallers, this is the reason why the Hospitaller is really a part of this group, is it's because we have our fingers in the pie, and we have that reach to people. And I won't speak for all social media officers, but I have my local social media officer, and I have my Kingdom social media officer, and I'm always amazed when be like, hey, I have this thing, can you do something with it? And then it's like 15 seconds later, it's like, here's this beautiful image. Yeah. I was like, well, that would have taken me 4 hours on Canva to figure out. So like, it's start the conversation about the content, and that gets the ball rolling. Same thing, if you're on the Discord and you're like, oh wow, this person was telling this hilarious story from practice, you'll be like, hey, like this is really great. Like, do you want to maybe like polish it up and submit it in the newsletter? Like all that kind of stuff can be really fun and push extra stuff out there.
Yeah, and it definitely, with going along with that, you can always also just like at your social media officer and be like, look at this picture we posted at fighter practice. Can you put it on our page or something like that? It doesn't have to be like these big elaborate like content that you're giving us. It can be small things here and there. And anything is better than just crickets.
And lots of small content can add up.
Yes,
so that it really becomes substantial.
Small content can be beneficial for social media because that's little bites here and there, and you can, and that makes it look more active.
So yeah, I think we've talked about pretty much everything on this slide already, because y'all are asking great questions.
Yeah.
So we have just some examples listed, and there's long form, shorter, very high quality, lower quality, where it's just like a picture that you pull off of the internet. Like there's a lot of ways to do big and small content.
Can I go into some of this?
Yeah.
Okay, so like he's saying, doing little content, big content, either or. One of the most important things that you need to make sure is that it's SEA appropriate. If it would not be in a Disney movie, don't, like, just for example, don't put it in there. Like, it needs to be wholesome, family friendly. So just make sure that any jokes, we're good. But definitely pulling it from the internet, making sure, if it's like a publicly owned thing, or memes are pretty much a safe thing otherwise, especially if it comes along with a good additional content that you write up. So going back to the other page, when you do your long videos or anything like that, it does not have to be an individual person doing it. Colfina helped Araziano with the video that is screen capped there. So just work with everyone that you can. It's going to be easy once you have your team with you. Because like you can't do this job by yourself, and no one can. like have support with this, because it's very fun to work with people, with others anyway. So to make it more fun, get help. And also there's going to be ideas that like I didn't come up with, but like Colfina did. And like, so you can bounce ideas off of each other too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So getting down to each of our, what do we provide? What do we need? So I'm going to first pass it off to Beatrix.
Sure. So we've kind of broken this down to ideas of how each officer can contribute and what each officer needs in order to be effective. So the main things that the local newsletters can provide is an opportunity for announcements. It's sort of a central location to provide all of these different kinds of SCA related content, right? Visual artwork, articles, poems, puzzles, comics, but also sort of forming, I kind of stole this phrase from NPR, sort of long form journalism. If you wanted, you can have someone do musings, you could have someone do recipes, the sorts of things that can often get lost in a social media feed, but sometimes seem a little too specific to put on an entire group's website. So it gives that sort of neutral ground where it's something that's going to stick around for a while and it's going to be visible for a while, but isn't necessarily meant for like, it's not the information that you give in an elevator speech about your group, right? This should be what goes in the newsletter. This can be also a central location and provide collaboration opportunities for the roster and officer information, local meetings, activities, and then upcoming events. That goes back to the Google calendars that Colfina was talking about. But again, that central location then provides like a point of collaboration. Hey, when are these things happening? Who are the people we need to get in touch with? That information needs to be synced then with your local web minister. So what do we need? We need broadcasting. In many ways, your local newsletter is sort of its own little mini ANS project, but if nobody sees it, then it's kind of a waste. So the idea is we need to be able to broadcast that newsletter. We need to be able to distribute it. That can be through a website link. That can be social media posts. So again, getting that information out there, because just I have a newsletter and I emailed it to the Kingdom Chronicler doesn't really benefit me or the people that it's meant for very much. The other thing that we need, again, is that content. So encouraging group members to submit content. But again, this can be shared within the other communication channels as well. So that's what chroniclers need, and also how we can add to the SCA experience.
All right, so that comes to the hospitalers. So what we can, like, what do we need is, I have it kind of like more focused on exactly, actually, is this? I need to make sure it's,
You might have an extra
different.
slide
Yeah,
in there.
I have an extra slide. So, doobly doop.
We went through a couple of iterations of how do we want to organize this.
We did. And this is the newer one. So, what do the hospitalers bring to the table? We've talked about some of this already, but it's, figuring out what information newcomers and the general populace need, and then also providing feedback on how it's working. Um, it's a lot easier for all three of these wonderful other offices to do their jobs when they're not also trying to think up all of the stuff that needs to go in it. When it's just like, here is the thing, and then they can do their job, which is just put the thing somewhere. So we are the source of things. So information about upcoming events and their target audience. This is why there's a new section of the hospital report that is there an event coming up, and does your social media website, does the Black Star, do we have all of that information, and is it going out? Again, I'll say it here, it's not the hospital's responsibility to do that, but it is a imperative for newcomers to be able to participate, that information exists.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm deputizing all of my hospitalers. Feedback on accessibility. So looking over resources and making sure that it doesn't say meeting at the same old spot on the website, that it's very clear that there's not a lot of SCA titles and terms all over. And also, this can be as simple as, talking to all the officers about, hey, on our officer page, next to each one, it has like a mundane description or modern description of what it is that office does, or that all of their, signatures in their email have an external facing, where maybe it's not hospitaler, it is regional recruitment and retention officer, make it accessible. And then, of course, access to new blood to add to the sacrifice pile. But no, really, this is a good opportunity to find people that can be deputies to the social media, or new social media officers altogether, to help, or just admins and moderators, which we are always in need of more. So what do we need? The the platforms to work. We need the information to be where we're going to send people to.
Yep.
And also feedback. There's some great opportunities, especially with like the website and socials, to get analytics on what's getting responses.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a good feedback loop to figure out what else is going to go out. Clear detail. So again, this is coming back to the Black Star and making sure that events will get good attendance, because nobody goes like, well, I couldn't find it on the events page, I couldn't find it in the Black Star, or the events page and the Black Star say different things, which is a triggering sentence to Beatrix. And then assistance responding to newcomer questions and queries, getting information out, and active welcoming, well-moderated spaces to direct newcomers into. It is so much better when you can say, we have a Discord, and you're just like, I know that the mods have it. I know that the people in there have been well trained. Everyone's going to be like receptive and know the rules of engagement. For new people, it just makes it so much easier, because really it takes you don't have to handhold every newcomer as a hospitaler, because there's a whole community that's excited to do it. Yes. Social media officer.
All right. So for the social media office, we're the ones who create and find and coordinate content made for our official virtual channels. So like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, X, those kinds of pages where people are going to see our stuff. We also, so that way when people, we help recruit new people by having the content sent out. So that helps out with like the hospitaler and that stuff. We have to make sure that we're creating a safe place in the virtual spaces that we have by moderating and making sure that any like squabbles or misinformation is corrected and taken care of quickly, efficiently, um, and quietly, so that way newcomers feel safe to be part of our community. So that's really, really important. In exchange, what we need is content, so videos, photography, articles that we can upload, so that way we can work with algorithms to be shown to people who aren't already part of the SCA. So we'll also need those up-to-date information on events, know who's like the event stewards and stuff. So that's working with your chronicler to get that event, like the ad out, like that information up and running. You need extra eyes. So having, your rep minister, the hospital or whoever to watch the channel, so that way you're not always there by yourself. And just kind of communicating and collaborating, because people I know aren't the same people who like Beatrix knows, and so having someone who's you're meeting with them on a regular basis and going, I need this help. Someone can be like, oh, I know someone who can help, and that's very important for the social media offices.
And the web minister. Sorry, I was muted.
Yeah. So, what is the web minister contribute? The biggest thing is websites let us centralize information for anybody who wants to find it. Newcomers, members, you can visit the website without having to have an account, and that is huge. It allows us to have a place where things can be updated dynamically and quickly, which is also really huge, because if things change short notice, you can hopefully get it on your website and do that. Though there are a lot of tools that help with that. Websites, because we want to try to reach our Facebook, our Discord, our email list, our social platforms that are the opt-in spaces where folks try to consume our SCA content. Websites and using our tools, you can set up ways where your website can literally be a push notification source. Something goes on the website and then it hits your Facebook, your Discord, your email list, whatever your approved platforms are that you're operating on for your local group, and that is very powerful if you use it, which can help beef up our newcomer engagement. It can beef up our social media engagement. It can beef up how many people see the newsletter and consume it if you're using it to push it out to those platforms. So there's a lot of power there that that I think people should take advantage of. Website is cool because our short digestible memes that can go on social media, or our long form story content, both of those can have a home on a website, which is really cool because you can help support both of those offices. And then specifically for local activities, local events, our websites allow us a place to embed and use with combining our official officer accounts through Google's G Suite, our Google calendars, a way to have activities, calendars that can update on demand, and combining with other tools, which I will not talk endlessly about, make it very easy to make sure that the activity details get to where they need to go. Similar to the Chronicler and social media, we need input on content. We need feedback on content. Website navigation is something that somebody can try and hit a website and they're like, man, I really want to find out what looks purple today. And they hit the site, they click the menu, and they see nothing purple, and they leave. And feedback on, can people find this information? Is it navigable? Is it just, a jarring visual experience, which I hope it's not. But that kind of feedback is absolutely crucial to helping keep a website useful. I'm just going to tease back to my earlier, if you want like cross-posting, Google Calendar, Discord updating, I'm going to have another meeting on that. So if you want more details on that, find me later.
All right, I'm going to jump. So we have a couple slides of, hey, these are all useful places to go to find resources to use for all of our offices. But platforms to avoid. So this does not mean that, well, actually, no, it kind of does. For what our offices are trying to do, this should be places that we're not going. So that doesn't mean like you personally cannot be on these places, but our organization doesn't need to be there. So Reddit is Twitter is on the no list.
So Twitter is an official channel. X is an official channel within the Society of Creative Anachronism. However, for Ansteorra and like kind of communicating with the society communications, so Bridget, Marjorie, those people, we've all kind of like collectively agreed to leave that site alone. So even though we have official, like it is an official platform, we don't want to touch that fire, like so to speak. And so there is nothing against using it. If you do, just be cautious. Definitely stay as be careful with what you put on there, what you interact with. And just like I would use it as a quick like, here's a link to the Instagram post we just made, here's a link to our TikTok, we're gonna meet here. Like not as many people use X that much anymore. I think a lot of people have started leaving it. So it is official. You can officially use it. I recommend Ansteorra's social media officers not to. That is, you can disregard my recommendation if you like it and you know how to use it, but like,
yeah,
you don't have to.
All right.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to power through these real quick, and then we can do some questions and kind of our closing bit. But people's personal websites, this can be tricky, especially you're on Discord and someone's like, oh, I'm trying to find this, easy place to find Scribble supplies. And there's a ton of blogs that are like, here's a list of places you can find Scribble supplies. We're not saying that you can't use those, but it should be very clear that it's from an outside source, and it should be really focused on like, hey, I personally am recommending this.
You cannot advertise something as the official, like if you are the social media of Namron, I'm gonna, because they don't have one right now, so I can believe it. They can't post as Namron saying go to this restaurant for your events. That's a huge no-no. But if someone came in and was like, hey, I'm new to Namron or I'm visiting, where's a good place to eat? You can say, oh, I love this place to eat at, you're fine. Like, so, and the same with websites and stuff, like that's how you would do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and similar for websites, like if you're gonna link personal blogs, artists, any sort of that. It's like you then run into, so you got to have release forms to use people's personal content, and if you're linking to external sites, we've got a whole set of disclaimers about that. So that's a rules thing.
And that kind of goes the same way for this next one, for comedy, satire, personal channels. I, Ricky Fink, have sent many a person a Scallion article. The Kingdom Hospitaller has never sent anyone a Scallion article, just because we want to keep to those official options. And really, this entire page could be just don't do it as your office, the musical. So I, Ricky Fink, have talked to many a person on Tinder about what the SCA is. I have not put anything up and said I hold any office in that organization, much less there being a profile for the group or anything like that. So, and this is just in general, anything that is pointing directly towards a SCA activity, towards the vicinity of an SCA activity, should be on our official platforms.
Yeah, and to speak generally about the reason for that is, especially when you get into sites that it's like, maybe it's a dating site, maybe it's a meetup, it's a hiking community, whatever, and if you start posting on there of like, hey, I have a regular meeting in a park that you should all come to, but you're posting it like in a hiking community, you can set people up for immediately like misunderstood expectations in both directions, which can cause a lot of problems. And so sticking to official platforms, if you're flirting on your dating sites, just link to the website, let them find it through our official means, so that we're not setting up people to be confused or have misunderstood expectations, or just stepping into something that does not line up with whatever site or platform that you found them
on. Yeah, 100%. All right, what you should take away from this talk: collaborate. It makes things better. We'll also, I will be sending out this deck to the hospitalers, and I'm sure my fellow officers will be sending it out to their lines as well. So yeah, we did just get our 5-minute warning, and I know that all of us will have to go skedaddle for State of the Kingdom, but are there any pressing questions? If you are not a social media officer, web minister, chronicler, or hospitaller, please send an email to one of those kingdom level offices and we can pass it along.
Yep. And for the recording, I believe, carbonated water does things. For the recordings of this, I'm going to do a little just editing on the ends to make sure I'm not catching like before end recordings. But my intention for this is to put it on the Kingdom YouTube, which should make it pretty easy to link to anybody who would like to find it.